Welcome to the Report, where we watch and talk about every episode of the Colbert Report from 2005 to 2014. That's a lot of episodes. I'm Nathaniel,
And I'm Alex.
and Colbert's guest today is Bradley Whitford.
Well, sort of, we'll see.
Yeah.
And so the beginning, things not much sparkle. He says, like, the secrets that are the secrets you don't know, I'm not telling. Bradley Whitford, he got that for the ladies. I see by demographics.
Hmm.
And for his segment, the inbox coming up, he says he's going to figure out what the E stands for in email.
Spoiler alert, it's email.
Yeah. And so he begins by saying, "Welcome to the show," but there's some people in New York who don't want to welcome to the show. And so it's Oliver Stone because he was shooting his movie World Trade Center, which would come out next August.
And what claims did the movie make?
The thing is that, like, even though Oliver Stone did make JFK, which is all about, like, the JFK assassination conspiracy theories, World Trade Center doesn't actually have any conspiracy theories. It's just a pretty straightforward
So it's not
account.
a conspiracy movie?
It's not.
Was it expected to be?
I don't know. I think a lot of people did just because it was because he made JFK.
Was it an intentional, like, subversion of expectations, or?
I doubt it. I think he probably just didn't. He probably just thought he could make it would be a pretty safe pick, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he describes the plot of the conspiracy JFK as being a gay prostitution ring, anti-Castro elites under orders from LBJ funded by Texas Oil, who didn't want Robert Kennedy to investigate the mob. And
It
say,
makes
sure, it
sense.
makes sense, but was it really our business to find that out?
Yeah. Is it actually in
I'm
any
pretty
way
sure it is pretty accurate.
to the
Like,
plot of the
I haven't
JFK
watched
movie?
it, but I think I have heard about. Like, I definitely remember the gay mafia type thing being
Yeah.
in there. He says that he's afraid that it'll stir the pot on 9/11.
Mm.
Said we've moved on from 9/11 to doing things in the name of 9/11, things you don't need a movie made about. So yes, he's worried. I guess Oliver Stone would make a movie about Iraq eventually.
Yeah.
I did see something they said that, of course, Oliver Stone made one of the movies about Vietnam, Platoon, and so a lot of people at the time were comparing Iraq to Vietnam. Like they said, they
Yeah.
wanted there to be protest music against it, and so there was a rush to get movies made about Iraq.
Mm.
But as I saw pointed out, you don't really make movies like that until after the war's over, so they kind of jumped the gun.
Yeah. There aren't any movies about Iraq.
There are,
Not that many though.
yeah, I mean they've mostly stopped making them, probably
Yeah.
because just not that many people died compared to
Also, I can't think
Vietnam.
of that many movies that like are set during the Iraq
There
War
are
specific, but like being made now.
being made now, no,
No.
unless it's about a specific person. I don't think they would make them.
Yeah. What movies has Oliver Stone made since uh World Trade Center?
He's made a lot. He made W. He made a movie about Edward Snowden. That was probably one of the ones that actually
Mm.
felt like he made a sequel to Wall Street. And I think he's mostly stopped because he did get hit by the Me Too wave. I know,
Mm.
but
Is W about Bush?
yeah, it's about George W. Bush.
Yeah. And do all
And
his movies have to have one word titles?
no, Wall Street is two
Wall
words.
Street is two words.
World Trade
Is
Center
it?
is three words.
But they're all very like minimalist. Is Wall
Maybe.
Street like hyphenated in the?
No, Wall Street. Why would Wall Street?
Well, you know, to keep it
I mean, the
together.
sequel is called Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, which is not minimalist.
How can you have a sequel to? Is
I
it just what happened since then, or
no, it's not a
it's
documentary.
not a documentary?
It's a fiction. I mean, Wall Street is a fictional account,
Oh,
and so the word is shh. Yeah, and so the big story that broke was about the CIA black sites in Eastern Europe, which
hmm.
was broke by Dana Priest of the Washington Post, and
So what's the thing with those?
it's just that like the CIA was holding prisoners there, I guess, because so they didn't show up on the official records.
Mm. What's happened to the black
I mean,
sites since
Bush
then?
did pretty much admit they exist the September after this.
Mm.
I think it's become a big thing, but I'm not sure how much they talk about it nowadays. But
Yeah. Do they still exist, or?
I doubt it because we're not in Iraq or Afghanistan anymore. But
Okay.
yeah,
What countries in Eastern Europe? Like,
I think they said Poland or something like that, but they didn't specify which ones.
mm.
I think it might have been because they didn't want to get in too much trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the bullet point says spoiler alert,
Hmm.
and that it would be Buzz Stomp City if they revealed anything. I don't think that's referenced, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
It's like Abu
It's like
Ghraib.
Abu Ghraib, which was the big thing about like a prison in Iraq that they found.
Hmm.
that there had been torture and things like
And
that.
the Bill O'Reilly
Phone
phone
sexcapade.
sexcapade.
I hadn't heard about that, but yeah, Bill O'Reilly had been sued for phone sexual harassment in
Mm-hmm.
2004. And things like that would be what would get him fired eventually in 2017, so it's not
Yeah.
surprising. But yeah,
Yeah. What's
didn't
in
realize I
lunch?
knew about it, I guess, but it makes
Yeah.
sense.
What's in lunch meat?
That's one of the things he doesn't want to
He
know.
doesn't want to
And the
know.
bullet points is B
B
flips.
flips.
Stop digging, fellas. Keep it in your pens. Being the
Colbert.
bullet point.
Yeah.
Said, I mean, if you can find something terrible happening pretty easily, I mean, look anywhere in like Africa and something horrible will stagger into frame. I think maybe he has a point because I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like so we just expect things to be terrible in certain places, so we stop covering them, even
Yeah.
though it would maybe benefit from covering it more.
Yeah. Oh, the
And
bullet point for the Africa thinks his misery accomplished.
yeah,
Yeah.
misery accomplished. In the old days, the media was so good they didn't dig into Bush, and the bullet point is no diggity. You didn't go into tax cuts, the WMDs, climate change. You had the savvy not to try and find out. It's good times as far as we know, as he says.
Yeah.
Then he brings up Angelina Jolie, saying that on the outside she's worth ruining your marriage for, but you don't want to see under her skin.
And then it's a
Then
picture
it
of
has a picture of her skin removed.
like the anatomy
Yeah.
of it.
It's kind of interesting as they keep bringing up Angelina Jolie, even though I'm pretty sure the Brad Pitt thing was a few months ago. I feel like just the kind of stories just had more dominance in the news back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it said it would really roll up my campsite, and then it says pup tent. It didn't quite get the ideas, I guess, it would be a tent for a dog, so it's not
Yeah.
actually that
Yeah.
big. Definitely an instance of the snarkiness from the bullet points
Yep.
there. There has been some of that before, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely continues. You'll just depress us. You need to do research into the stories that'll make us smile. Why can't I say
Mm.
nice things? So the next story it segues into is actually the interview. It does a
Yeah, it
kind of
comes second
different.
in
We'll
this
see.
episode.
I feel like it's just because of the different format. And
Yeah.
then it says, I doubt any of this will sink into Oliver Stone, but he knows he watches it because he sends him pictures like this. I'm not sure what this is a reference to. Oliver
Mm.
Stone's wife is Korean, and I guess the person in the picture could have been Korean, but I don't see any reference. I doubt it was about the sexual harassment type things because I don't think those were known about then.
Mm.
So I think it's just like kind of a random joke. It says, sorry,
Yeah.
Ollie, she's my assistant.
Mm.
I mean, maybe somebody on the writer staff did know that about Oliver Stone or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Then says he goes into the whole secrets thing. Says, this is a cultural war between the Heartland, who can zip it, and the West Coast media elite with their celebrity unwed babies, their post rehab confessionals, their reality TV. If
Mm-hmm.
God wanted us to see reality, the plot would be way less complicated. He says.
And then we move to Holly and Wood put in the desert.
But he says that he hates everything about Hollywood, including the name.
Mm-hmm.
That it has Holly and Wood, but there's no Holly or Wood to be found.
Yeah.
Prays for the day that the San Andreas Fault will snap it off into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Then, live from Hollywood, here's Bradley Whitford, who played Deputy Chief of Staff Lyman on The West Wing
Yep.
at the time, which is what he is best known for. And
And
the
then
show is still on in its final
Yeah.
season.
And then Colbert abruptly segues into how he's a huge fan of The West Wing.
Back when it was on Wednesday, it had moved to Sunday for the final
Yeah.
season. It was like hump day. It was so great. Me and my wife would give the kids Benadryl so that we could just watch The West Wing. It's an honor to have you here, destroying your country. I
Yeah.
like the whole joke that like he's both really wants to be part of Hollywood but has to pretend like he hates
Yeah.
Hollywood. It
Well,
actually really works with it being a character
Yeah.
too, I would
Does the
say.
character continue that
I mean,
throughout the show?
definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, it work like you don't have to get into the whole meta idea because like he can use his real life facts to just make the joke funny out of
Yeah.
it. Because he just looks like a hypocrite. He doesn't look like he's playing a character
No.
necessarily.
Yeah.
And of course, Whitford is surrounded by Emmys for the whole time. Says that his hair is treated and his teeth is fake.
How many
like the
Emmys were
standard
there on
I
the
forget,
Whitford
I
screen?
think at least 5.
Okay. Also, Whitford's like doing a video call.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. He's calling live from Hollywood. Yeah.
not.
So I imagine it's part of the reason why they did this differently. I'm not sure if he just couldn't come over or they came up with the whole idea and thought it would be funnier.
Well, they were doing the West Wing like that week, right? So they probably.
They were, so maybe they couldn't reschedule because if they
Yeah.
rescheduled to the next one, the whole live episode, which we'll get into, would
Yeah.
have already happened. And the captions, like under Bradley Whitford, they start off as Hollywood, but then it goes through Holly Weird, La La Land, which are both pretty well known terms. Then it gets into
Yeah.
Evil Empire, Pervert Town, not Job Junction, Ludopolis, but then unfortunately just keep repeating from
These
the beginning.
repeat.
I assume they must have had like a button that would cycle through them.
Yeah.
And they got back to the beginning after a while. I guess maybe they just couldn't think of enough of them in time.
Yeah. Colbert asked him if he misses living in America.
Now that he lives in Hollywood, out there with
Yeah.
Sean Penn. And then he says, I didn't want to live there, but once I had kids, I just wanted to raise them there because of the Hollywood values of
Of
hard
hard
work and
work.
attention that we get. Reminds me of the Jeff Daniels thing where we brought that up
Yeah.
again. I assume that just he is doing a willing joke because you would not think Hollywood would be a
Yeah.
great place for families,
Honestly. I mean,
especially with all the captions given.
yeah. I mean, Whitford's obviously doing a bit with the all the Emmys and such. Were
Yeah.
those all his Emmys or just West Wing's
I
Emmys?
mean, I assume he got Emmys if he was in the cast of West Wing. I mean, I guess maybe for
Yeah.
acting, though. I mean, they'd have to just be his acting ones. So I'm guessing those
Yeah.
probably are all his. But
Yeah.
and so the big thing that they were having to promote was that the Sunday after this episode, which aired on Thursday, was doing a live episode where they were having the presidential candidates in the West Wing to succeed Barton Sheet, I guess, Jimmy Smith, who were played by Jimmy Smits and Alan Alda.
So it's a fake debate in real life.
Yeah, like it's actually live, so that
What was the
to make it look
viewership
like a
on it
real.
on that episode of
I
West Wing?
forgot to check. I mean, I assume it must have been a pretty big stunt, but and
Yeah.
because the air show was at two different times on the East Coast and the West Coast, they wanted filming it twice, so it could be live for everybody.
Is there any difference in between the?
I mean, I assume there is, but I would have to check to
I
see.
mean, why would they have to do that? I mean, real debates aren't. I guess they have to
But I mean,
broadcast at
in
the same
real
time.
debates, they can make room for different things in the time slots for different times.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that for a fictional show, I guess.
No.
That'd be too much to ask.
But they couldn't just re-air it, like record
I mean,
the
I'm guessing they
first.
could, but they probably just thought that the gimmick wouldn't work as
Mhm.
well if they could only broadcast to one side of the country that it was live.
Yeah. Well, now I wonder, like on the streaming version of The West Wing, which
I'm not
recording do you
sure.
get?
Maybe you
East
can
Coast.
choose.
Yeah.
I'll have to check. Maybe you can check viewers. And so he said, "Oh, so the East Coast will just be the dress rehearsal." I feel like they're kind of ripping us off.
Hmm.
And if Owen Alda swallows a bug in one version, we'll have to swallow it in the other one. I'd hate the people out there to miss that. And so, of course, then he brings up the Emmys because Colbert only has one from The Daily Show at this point.
Yeah.
But Colbert does bring out his Peabody, but Bradley Whitford has two.
Were the Peabodys for
They're for the West
the
Wing,
West Wing?
2000, 2001. The Peabody is supposed to be like for, I think, socially conscious media in some form, so it makes sense that the West Wing would get
Okay.
them.
So.
Can you get them together to have them fight? They said it's not about the words out there. Then Colbert says it's about the cash.
And Whitford does agree
Yeah, and then he brings up, isn't Gina Davis the real president? Because there was a new ABC show called Commander in Chief,
with Gina Davis.
where Gina Davis was the president. I don't think it doesn't seem like it lasted for more than a season, but
Mm.
I wonder if it was expecting to pick up the mantle of the show about the president now that the West Wing was ending, but I guess that didn't work.
Yeah.
Or are you not liberal enough for that? Like, I mean, Smits and Alda don't have a vagina. I mean, I'm not sure about Alda. It's pretty
Yeah.
sensitive, he says.
Does it have something to do with the characters on the show, West Wing?
I don't think so. I think it's just a dumb joke.
Just a
But,
joke.
I mean, I could be wrong because I do miss these references sometimes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've
But
never watched West Wing, so.
and then, of course, he advertised that it's 8 o'clock Sunday, bringing light to the ruse that he's actually here to criticize him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And
Whitford's a good. It was funny.
yeah,
He
and
was.
I had heard of him for playing Sondheim in Tick Tick Boom, but of
Yeah.
course he has a pretty long career
He
outside
had
of that.
his own jokes ready to go, which was
Yeah,
good. I thought
he's sort of playing a character in this
too.
too,
Yeah.
which helped. The Fract is about Karl
Karl
Marx,
Marx
saying Karl Marx couldn't have been that smart if he spelled capital
capital
with
with
a
a
K.
K
I mean, his name must have been Karl Marx with a
with a
C,
C.
and he didn't
Just-
even know it. And the
Yeah.
Better Know District. Now, before this, I had wanted to see who is Colbert's first guest that has died since then. And I had come to Cokie Roberts, who was a week after this. But I guess this sort of counts because his Better Know District guest is Congresswoman Stephanie Tubb Jones from Ohio's 11th District, who would die less than 3 years after this.
What of?
It says I guess she had like a sudden aneurysm.
Oh,
And
that's unfortunate.
yeah, it seems like they did re-air part of the episode after she died, so
So that was her best legacy.
I don't know.
Colbert.
No, I mean like on Colbert,
Oh,
he
on
re-aired
Colbert. Okay.
the part of the episode.
Yeah.
It says they're shy, elusive creatures with representatives with 2-year terms. They're like the fruit flies of the political world, which I guess does seem awkward knowing that she would die.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to study them in their natural habitat. To go over the facts, of course, you have to get in something about the Cuyahoga River burning. It says here that it burned down had to be rebuilt.
Burned to the ground.
Yeah.
Does he mention that every time he does an interview with somebody from Ohio?
I'm not. I mean, I doubt it would be unless it's from Cleveland.
Or I mean Cleveland.
I know that at the end of the show, Colbert did interview Stephanie Tubbs Jones' successor, Marcia Fudge. I wonder if that was on purpose to sort of bookend it.
Yeah,
He
maybe.
didn't count it as a double interview, but I'm guessing that's because the number of the district had changed.
Yeah.
And
Rock and Roll Hall of
Hall of
Fame.
Fame, he talks about that because it's where rock and roll was coined. The term, which I guess is the justification for being there. But the Hall of Fame is where it goes to die, which of course
Hmm.
makes it kind of ironic for Colbert.
Yeah.
Then he brings up people from Cleveland, and Eric Carmen is one of them. I would sing all by myself, but I promised that I never pay any royalties to Eric Carmen, so no.
What's the joke with Eric Carmen? Is he
I don't think it's a joke about him as a person. I think he just thought it was funny that
just funny that?
the idea that
Yeah.
yeah. And then talks about the West Side having a lot of like ethnicities from Eastern Europe, and just pictures of like old grandmas for all
Yeah,
of
he says
them.
it's very diverse. You've got like
Yeah,
Slovenes, like Serbs,
Hungarians.
Bulgarians. Yeah. Is West Side Cleveland actually have a lot of
I think so.
Eastern Europeans?
I think I'd heard that. And Preserve question asks is, can I call you TJ?
Hmm.
Just yes.
Tubbs Jones says.
Then she asks about a recipe for cornbread dressing, and so they just talk about like recipes for a
Yeah,
lot.
they talk about food for a good portion of the interview.
Yeah,
Well, I would say more than half.
yeah. I'm wondering if they had a whole bunch of questions prepared, and not just the one that worked. Maybe best.
Yeah. But Tubbs Jones did really likes
Yeah, their dressing and potato rolls. And she tells her what potato water is, and Colbert just thinks it's yummy by itself.
because he does have to
Yeah,
ask what's potato water, which
but Colbert says that lawmakers shouldn't have time for hobbies, and Lincoln's hobby was healing the nation.
I think it's a bit funnier in the way Sir Simpson, which is
Yeah,
he ha- he says lawmakers shouldn't have hobbies. Tubbs Jones disagrees. Colbert says, "Well, do you know what Lincoln's hobby was?
healing the
Healing
nation.
the nation."
And then it says, "You're the first African American woman to serve on the Ways and Means Committee. Does that make you the Halle Berry of the Ways and Means Committee?" It hadn't been that long since Halle Berry had become the first black woman to win the Best Actress award, so that's what
Yeah,
that would be referring to. And it says, "I'm more like the Harriet Tubman." So, or like, no, you mean the Harriet Tubman Jonesman?
yeah. I was. I wonder if they're trying to get Harry Tubman in. I wonder if that was a prepared bit
I'm
to
gonna
get
guess.
Tubman
I don't
Jones
think
in.
that the Congress people prepare for this. I mean, it's pretty
Not the Congress
obvious
people, but
from
Colbert was trying to get something said.
Baby. I feel like he couldn't have predicted that, so
No, but
I disagree.
it might have been like if she mentioned Harriet Tubman, that
Yeah.
it would have.
Then he grills her about voting against the pro troop resolution. It
Mm,
is well, it's easy to say that I voted against the troops because I hate the troops. Like he asks, "Do you hate the troops?"
mhm.
He says, "But I mean, I actually didn't vote for it because of the designation. It was for other reasons that weren't."
What specific piece of
I
legislation was it?
actually didn't look it up
You
this
didn't look it up.
time. I'm not sure
It
if
was
it
probably
would
one of like the
prove
Iraq War
yeah type things,
ones.
but I assume most people voted for it because
Yeah, I think
even
she
the
said. I
Democrats,
think Colbert said she was like one of 15 to not vote for it.
something like that. But then Colbert says it's easy for you to say. It's easy to say that you didn't support the troops. It was actually hard to say. I had to
Mm.
go back because I could not like comprehend that at the time.
Yeah,
I assumed she couldn't either.
it's easy for you to say. Is
It's easy to say.
does it logically make
Yeah,
sense?
it does.
It does logically make
I think
sense.
Colbert was good at like working through those things
Yeah.
on the spot.
Is no.
Yeah,
She's bewildered by that, right?
yeah.
She doesn't really know
And
what to say
then
about it.
Colbert brings up that she tried to oppose the electoral vote count in Ohio at the time.
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
I think at the time, like a lot of people did try to make like Kerry did try to say that Kerry actually won Ohio and the election was stolen.
Mm,
Like RFK Jr. at the time said that.
yeah.
Yeah,
How close was
it wasn't
Ohio?
super close, but it was pretty close.
Was
Like
it the closest state?
it wasn't because I remember seeing on a website that about like what would be the fewest number of votes you'd have to switch to sway the election. And they said if Kerry had won Ohio, that would have been enough. But there were two other states that you needed to put together would you would need to sway even less votes.
Yeah. So so if Kerry had won Ohio, he would have become president.
Yeah.
Oh,
I assume a lot of it was just bitterness because I mean the Florida one was when the only
yeah.
electoral recount actually would have changed the outcome. So
What was the original called it outcome for Florida in 2000?
I mean, I know some of the networks said Gore, but by the time the final vote count was in, it was Bush.
Okay. But and then the recounts happened. It was a
Yeah,
whole thing.
I don't think any of the recounts wound up changing the outcome
Hmm.
because I mean the Supreme Court said they couldn't go any further later.
Yeah.
But
Is there any evidence that Kerry might have won Ohio, or is it unlikely?
I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about Gore and Ford, then
I'm
I guess it's
no, I'm talking
possible.
about Kerry in Ohio.
I don't think so. I don't think that was very
It's
close.
not
Like
that
I
close.
think if you were, I remember looking at RFK Jr.'s supposed evidence, and
Hmm.
like if you look at any of the if you know anything about how elections work from like modern mapping things, it's pretty obviously a bad argument. Like it was because one Democrat did better than Kerry there, so they must have been intending to vote for Kerry, but had
If
I'm not
that's not
sure why I would just switch one of their votes and not all of them, but
yeah.
yeah.
So it's just
Yeah, but then Tubbs Jones said that it was just a procedural thing. It wasn't that serious. And then Colbert says, "No, that's a winning attitude." Yeah,
I think that's the winning attitude that's helped the Democrats so much
yeah.
as of late. Now, is this after the 2006 midterms, or is this
No, this is 2005 still.
2005 still? So about a year. But so the Democrats had been having like losses as of
Probably,
late.
yeah. So it brings up something about Cleveland Rocks. She also asks about the state flower of Ohio, and then she says that's a good question. I guess she doesn't know.
She doesn't
It's the
know.
scarlet
This is
carnation.
Scarlet.
And then she says, "What is it about Ohio that makes people want to flee the earth? Because there's a lot of astronauts from Ohio." And of course,
That's a funny
yeah,
joke.
Colbert asks the famous question: George W. Bush, great or greatest president?
Yeah.
And then says, "I'll put you down for great because I mean, great could mean bad," and brings up the
Hmm.
clip of Barney Frank being forced to say the same thing.
Yeah. With the Ohio, does the fact there's so many astronauts from Ohio have anything to do with the meme? Like, wait, it's all Ohio?
I have no idea.
Because it's like a coincidence, right?
Probably. The motto of Ohio is "With God, all things are possible." It was adopted in
Hmm.
1959, so I assume it was sort of like the Pledge of Allegiance, where they wanted to show that they weren't communist.
Yeah.
And
She
Colbert says,
agrees.
"Does that include free elections?" So that's it for that part. And then she puts
Hmm.
it up on the big board. It says, "If you connect the districts, it makes a triangle."
That'll be the only time that is true for
Yeah.
this
Then they
show.
have an extra segment, Judge Tubbs.
Or I guess he did this as part of the interview, but it
Yeah.
was cut for time.
I mean, it wasn't cover time because it's in the episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like cut from the interview portion
Yeah.
for time.
And so Colbert makes like a mock case, and he says his name is Bramlett Abercrombie, but she
Yeah.
cannot pronounce or remember that
Well,
name.
the reason why he does it is because apparently Tubbs Jones was a like highly thought of judge in
Yeah.
Cleveland. So Colbert asks if like he proposes a TV show,
Yeah.
and he makes her do a mock episode of it.
Yeah.
And Colbert says his name is
Bramlett
Bramlett
Abercrombie.
Abercrombie, which I feel isn't that hard to
Yeah.
remember.
And it's a suit against his girlfriend because she returned the couch in unacceptable condition because it was set on fire. It's like it was hard to determine the couch's
Hmm.
color, but set on
Yeah,
fire. And then he appears as the girlfriend Sharon Applebaum, and she just admits to having set the couch on fire.
yeah,
So then she finds in his favor and gives him $25.
yeah. Tubbs Jones is pretty funny in it. I
Yeah,
think
she's pretty good.
she's willing to play along with the
Yeah.
bit.
And then the last segment at the end is the inbox.
Mm. Real quick
And
before we move to that, has there ever been a TV judge who's actually a judge
I mean, most of
before?
them I think had been judged in some form,
So they
but
had been actual judges, not just like
I think so. Could be
TV.
wrong. I mean, some of them haven't, but I think
Yeah. Well, I don't think Steve Harvey's been a judge in
I
real
don't
life.
think Steve Harvey has a
Steve
show.
Harvey has a show where he's a
Oh yeah, I
judge,
can believe that. That makes sense.
Judge Steve Harvey.
Yeah,
So probably not
yeah.
him, but
And
the next segment.
the next time is the inbox, and the E in email stands for email.
Yep.
She realized. And the first letter is just "you kick ass," and it says that's good, but you left out taking names.
Mm,
Then she asks, "Why didn't you speak at Rosa Parks' funeral?" And it says, "I knew Al Sharpton would deliver my message for me," and he was like delivering like a whole big speech, something about how like she didn't let anybody pimp her out or something.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was like a
Al
very
Sharpton was yeah.
Al Sharpton's crazy,
I
kind
don't
of.
know,
Not
maybe kind of.
maybe not.
And then the next one is just called "Is it 16?" It says
Is the email?
the next
Yeah,
email is just "Is it 16?" with no context. Is oh, so you're asking about what number Steven is thinking of? It's
yeah,
not 16. It'll be like a huge prize if you get it. And then she like has like a board with numbers from 1 to 500 with all the ones that have been guessed crossed out. And it says,
yeah.
"Note, just because the numbers are 1 through 500 on the board, it could be a number that's not on the board."
Now I wonder, do you think that like they actually got an email saying, "Is it 16?"
I mean,
with no
I
context?
honestly wouldn't be that surprised, but I'm
Because it
not
feels like
sure.
a weird thing to make up. Because the number board hasn't been a bit previously, unless
Yeah.
it's like a Daily Show
Yeah, so it could
bit.
be. I know they do bring the inbox back all the way at the end of the show,
Mm,
and I'm pretty sure in those the letters are obviously fake. Like the
hmm.
credentials are like obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Like one of them is like, "What's the difference? What's better, BLT or club sandwich?" And it's from like Pope Francis or
Ah.
something.
Well, I think most of these are obviously fake, but I think the is it 16 one it might be real because it's like
Maybe.
maybe somebody, like one of the interns or whatever, got that in the inbox and it's like, why? It's
Yeah,
because it's funny. It's and no context is provided, so they
yeah.
decided to make a bit out of it. Do we ever guess what number Colbert's thinking of?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it comes back, but
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, if it does come back for future reference, what number do you think he's thinking of?
Pi.
I'm gonna say 76.
Okay. So we had thought this would be a short episode of writing it down, and it was. That
Yep.
will be a relief after the long ones. So
Mm-hmm.
signing
Signing
off.
off.
Oh wait, actually, it's not a
Wait.
short episode because we were recording extra parts before this. But
Oh,
still, this is probably a bit short. Okay,
so shorter episode.
signing off.
Signing off.